All right, so we're looking at the Ecomap for Howard's family system. If you'll notice at the very center, we start off with Howard, who is identified as the addict. The things that are major on his problem lists are going to be depression, his unaddressed medical issues, it's noted here as liver problems, and uncontrolled drinking. You can see that he is indicated in a square, as that indicates that he is male. We'll look over to his spouse, Veronica. She could also be called the chief enabler in the situation, or the caretaker. The caretaker is noted by this line with the double arrows. And then the problems that she's having in the relationship have to do with a lot of depression, loneliness, and fear and worry. She's worried that she's going to lose Howard due to his drinking because of some medical problems and liver problems. They're also having issues because Howard's blacking out. He's not remembering the time that he's spending with Veronica because he's blacking out while he's drinking. So that kind of leads over to the alcohol part. So alcohol is listed up over here as a life area. If we were thinking of this as a biopsychosocial assessment, we would think of this as kind of the substance use category. We can see underneath alcohol is listed relationship problems, health problems, and emotional or cognitive problems. Howard indicates at the very end, after he goes to rehab and gets some sobriety, that while he was drinking, he was hopeless, and that he believes that it was a large part of it was his depression. He also had mentioned on here that he was drinking for the pain because he'd been in a car accident before, which was due to his work. But we'll be back to that in a second. So it seems like Howard, in his relationship with alcohol, you can see this line here, or two lines with a squiggle, a zigzag. That indicates that this is a dangerous relationship, that it's hostile. And you can also see the line that extends out to the alcohol that has the arrow on it. And that indicates that Howard is focused on the alcohol. You can see that there is a dotted circle around the partnership between Howard and Veronica. This means that they live in the same household. And we'll go ahead and circle over here. We have the social relationships category. This could also be considered a part of like an assessment of this family system as a part of the biopsychosocial, this being obviously the social part. And I'm going to go ahead and go in a little bit closer. You can see this. This line indicates that there's distance in this relationship between Howard and his friend Chris. While the documentary is very vague on Chris's participation, I think that actually shows something about the quality of that relationship, and that it's distanced and potentially strained due to the alcohol. So not having time for the friendship, there does appear to be some worry, and then some lack of support or positive support in the end, and being able to have this relationship as an impetus to get sober. We'll go ahead and zoom back out and scroll down to the relationship Howard has with his work. We'll call this racing. This is actually a close relationship. Howard, it almost borderlines on Howard focusing on it, but I went ahead and used the double lines to indicate that this is a close relationship. Issues with this racing dynamic in the system of work is it's dangerous. He's been in an accident before, right? Accident causes pain, which leads to alcohol use and the addiction component there, because we're numbing not only the emotional pain, but the physical pain from that accident, which is caused by work. So there's some danger there. It's also kind of a fast lifestyle. The documentary goes through telling how he goes often on the road and works with lots of various different types of people, stunt people, things in preparing for movies. There's lots of different dynamics involved in there. It doesn't explicitly state it, but in that lifestyle, one would imagine that there might be a fair deal of kind of the partying, which would also again influence that alcohol consumption. We also see that there's money in this. And then, of course, the money enables the drinking. So, while Howard's at work, he's able to put, all cylinders firing on full. And then he has the money from those engagements to be able to finance his habit for when he's not at work. In fact, at one point, Howard even says it's like two different people between when he's working and when he's at home. Which kind of brings us to the next dynamic of Howard's Ecomap, and that's going to be more of the family circle down here. So we'll notice that we have two people living. Again, this is the dotted line that signifies that they're living in the same house. We'll start with mom. Her name is Beverly. The issues that she's going through, though that is kind of vague in the documentary, it looks like there might be some enabling going on there. At one point she says, "I'll do whatever it takes to get him into treatment." And then maybe some poor boundaries that kind of borders on the enabling. But even in the letter that she wrote to Howard, it seemed more a letter of support rather than talking about some of the consequences or the facts of how the drinking has influenced the relationship. We get the same thing with dad, except for I'm going to actually go ahead and add in for dad here that we also have an issue with some distance. You know, the first thing that dad does when he comes in, for the intervention is give him a big hug. And he says that he wasn't sure that that Howard is actually going to hug him back. So to me, that says that there's some distance. So since this is a working document and we do have a marker, why don't we go ahead and add in that this relationship between Howard and dad is distanced. So we'll go ahead and do another dotted line. We can see that this relationship is solidly fused, connected by marriage. And then also we could even say that this is close. There we go, as we're editing as we go. And then of course, this marriage and their interaction is focused on Howard with that addiction struggle. As far as doing this Ecomap and noticing the things as we go along, I think that this kind of gives us a decent idea of what's going on with Howard, and I think Veronica comes in a lot in here too. She seems to be the kind of driving force that's pulling in family members and maybe even a little bit in the social relationships, even though it doesn't state that she is the one that brought Chris in. So yeah, this is my Ecomap. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see everybody else's.